Well, good evening. Good evening, and welcome to our new show. My music is not playing, so you don't hear my music, but I'll get it together for next week. So let me pause it. I can hear it through my headphones, but you can't hear it. So I'm going to pause it here and just get right down to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I think I'll play it until some people come in. Let's see here if we can just get this music going here and see if we can get it going and wait for some people to come in and listen in. You are listening to Vision for Young Men. Let's see. So I'm just going to play this for a minute until we get some people in here. There's a man at my house, he's so big and strong. He goes to work each day and he stays all day long. He comes home each night looking tired and beat. He sits down at the dinner table and has a bite to eat. Never a frown, always a smile. When he says to me, "How's my child?" I say that I've been studying hard all day in school, trying very hard to understand the golden rule. I think I'll color this man father. I think I'll color him love. Said I'm gonna color him father. I think I'll color the man love. Yes, I will. He says education is the thing if you want to compete. Because without his son, life ain't very sweet. I love this man and I don't know why, except I'll need his strength until the day that I die. My mother loves him and I can tell by the way she looks at him when he holds my little sister Nell. I heard her say just the other day that if it had not been for him, she couldn't have found her way. I think I'll color him father. I'm gonna color him love. I've got to color him father. I think I'll color this man love. Our real old man, he got killed in the war. And she knows she and 7 kids couldn't have gotten very far. She said she thought that she could never love again. And then there he stood with that big wide grin. He married my mother and he took us in. And now we belong to the man with that big wide grin. I've got to color this man father. I'm gonna color him love. I've got to color him father. I believe I'll color this man love. He's just been so good to me. I know I've got to color him love. I'm gonna color him father. I've got to color this man love. Well, good evening. So kind. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the broadcast this evening. My name is Alonzo Fleming, as many of you know, and we do a Sunday school program every Sunday here, and I wanted to add a little something more to the program, the Sunday school, in order to give you an opportunity to um, give me feedback, call in, and if you have some questions about last Sunday's program or some other things that we're going to be talking about this evening, then I want you to, you can call in. The number is 469 297 2056. I'll say that again. That's 469 is the area code, 297 2056.
And the name of this program is Vision for Young Men. And I decided to do this program for a couple of reasons. Um, One of which I get so many questions about some of the things I'm doing with my boys in my home and trying to raise them. And I'm a single dad. And, people notice the job that we're doing here. And so they ask me a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions, a lot of text messages, especially from ladies wanting to know different techniques that I use for different scenarios with respect to their own children. So I said that was one reason. The other one, I said, okay, it's something maybe we need to think about doing. And then another reason is just to back up some of the things that we're doing on Sunday school, kind of reinforce some of the things we're teaching, and aim them directly at young men. And when I say young men, I'm just using that word, young men. It could be whatever age. If you consider yourself a young man, I mean, it's good. I'm not talking about an age. I'm just talking about probably the willingness to learn something new. So we started this program for those reasons. Then another reason, I got a text message or email, I should say, from a young lady regarding Sunday's program this past Sunday school, which was Adam, Where Are You? Why Black Men Don't Attend Church. And as I said in the beginning, that was the hardest program. That was the hardest Sunday school I ever taught. I mean, it was the most difficult one because I knew that I was going to be dealing with some very sensitive issues and quite frankly, some very offending issues because, we have grown accustomed to hiding a lot of things under the covers. And the topics that I approached this past Sunday just literally pulled the covers off of a lot of stuff. I got an email from a young lady regarding last Sunday's program or Sunday school. And I want to read a portion of it to you. I got so much feedback from that show Sunday. I got so much feedback just talking about why Black men don't attend church. I got a text message saying that we can't even be friends. What you were saying was so offensive that we can't even be friends. It's interesting. One, and I kind of got a little beside myself and quite frankly, a little discouraged and a little depressed behind that just for a bit. But when I realized that it was in line with my mission, I soon got over it. I got a text message after that show Sunday. And if you want to talk about some of the things I said, if you happen to hear that program Sunday, I mean, you can come into the chat room too and say something in the chat room about the program Sunday. You can. We're going to talk about some other things pertaining to young men tonight, but I want to give some an opportunity to review or get some clarity on what we talked about this past Sunday. I got a text message. Here's what the text message said. I'm proud of you. That Sunday school lesson was absolutely necessary. You are doing the right thing. It's helping so many people. Others may not tell you that, but it's the truth. I never asked the question why the black male wasn't in the church. However, I feel so heartbroken prancing up in the church, sitting alone, and asking God, where is my man? I'm just numb. That was some feedback from a young lady who heard Sunday's program, Sunday school, and literally observed the obvious and wrote me regarding it. I mean, she says, I'm just numb. I'm prancing up into the church. I'm praising the Lord, but the elephant that's not in the room is the fact that there is no man in this church for me to marry. If you have something to say about Sunday school and that topic, you're welcome to join me in the chat, or let me get on Facebook, so just in case some of you guys are listening on Facebook and putting Facebook messages on there. I guess I should have done that in the beginning. Let's see. So I'll go to Facebook just in case somebody has something they want to say to me on Facebook. I will be able to see it on Facebook. But that is something that we spoke to the elephant in the room, or the elephant not in the room, but should be in the room. The fact that black men are not coming to church. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that Sunday school, I invite you to go listen to it. You can go to my Facebook page and see it. Tonight, we're going to deal with young men directly. And I'd like to offer some of my expertise with respect to raising young men. I've been raising 3 boys for the last 9 years. And I've learned some things from that experience. I want to share some things with you, some techniques, because some of you are asking me. I had a call last night, 25-30-minute conversation about the mother was literally in tears because she wasn't connecting with her son, and was asking me, what should I do in that scenario? What should she do in that scenario? And I gave her what I thought I would do. I talked a little bit about the energy of a male. So I figure I'll just kind of give information. Oh, let me tell you. If you know some young people, it doesn't matter, male or female, in school, this pandemic is retarding some of the learning that we're getting because of the transition to online. And I was doing online learning long before the pandemic. But the pandemic has made it such to where people are falling behind. So this is what I'm doing. If you know a young person that needs some help in mathematics or science, all the way from arithmetic, linear algebra, physics, go to this website, brainstormforlife.com. brainstormforlife.com. I set up this website in order to, I noticed that a lot of people were having trouble. A lot of kids are just falling behind in school. And I'm going to show some techniques for learning mathematics and science that will blow your kids' mind. When they discover just how easy it is to learn it. There's a technique to learning mathematics. There's a technique to learning chemistry. There's a technique to learning physics. Brainstormforlife.com. I'm going to set up some classes. I'm already doing it. I'm just adding this as another dimension. Brainstormforlife.com. Click on tutoring. Put some information in there. I'll get in touch with you and we will set your child up for online live tutoring in mathematics or science, pretty much any level of math or science. Okay, let me put a question out here. What if every thought you held in your mind had with it a effect, or it affected your children, you, your family, your loved ones? What if every thought you held in your mind affected your children, affected you, your loved ones, those who are precious to you? What kind of thoughts would you hold in your mind? Think about it for a minute. What kind of thoughts would you hold in your mind if you knew that every thought you held in your mind affected somebody to the degree that you are thinking, with the same nature of what you're thinking? What kind of thoughts would you hold in your mind? Think about that for a little bit. So, moving further, I'm going to put the question out there. What is vision? We named the program Vision for Young Men. What is vision? 469-297-2056 if you want to call in, or you can just go to the chat room and say something in the chat room. And I'm also here on Facebook. What is vision? The dictionary says vision is the ability to see. That's one definition. Another definition for vision is to think about and plan a future with imagination and wisdom. To think about and plan a future with imagination and wisdom. That is vision. The name of the program is Vision for Young Men. Think about and plan a future with imagination and wisdom. And that's what we're going to want to develop in our boys: imagination and wisdom. You often hear me say that wisdom is a feminine energy. It carries with it a feminine energy. Imagination carries with it a masculine energy. So vision is the result of combining the male and female. So vision or imagination and wisdom gives you vision. So we want to talk about vision, which is a masculine energy, and how to develop vision in our boys. The name of the program is Vision for Young Men. Now, I received a letter I posted this on Facebook, and so many people said they wanted to listen in tonight because I was going to tell you what that letter was all about, because I posted that letter on Facebook in anticipation of doing the program tonight. That letter was written to me in 2015 by my son, now 22-year-old, Taurus. And I want to introduce the program tonight and the topic tonight by giving you an outline of what happened and why I say that letter saved my life. I had been raising my boys for 2 years, it was a little over 2 years, about 2.5 years at that time in 2015. And I was doing it by myself. I had no help or very little help. I was confused. I felt abandoned, alone, and I didn't think I knew what I was doing. About 2.5 years at that time. One particular day, life was just a complete struggle. From day to day, all day, a complete struggle. I had been studying A Course in Miracles, and I was trying to apply all the concepts to this and staying in God's presence, and all the techniques that I thought I had learned were being put to the test, quite frankly, from 2013 up until about 2018. But 2015, I was out of gas, ladies and gentlemen. I just did not have any more gas to raise these boys. My tank felt empty. So when they went off to school that morning, I decided that when they came home, I was going to make sure all three of them had come home from school. I was going to walk out of that door and never look back. That was my plan that day. I think that letter was dated the 15th of September of 2015. It's on my Facebook page. I was going to walk out of the door once the youngest one got home from school and never look back. That was my plan. I had no more gas in my tank. So I thought. So my middle son came home first, and as was my custom, I tried to sound upbeat. How was school, son? He was all right. Went and did what he would do. My younger son came home next. Same thing. Son, how you doing? How was school? Trying to sound upbeat. I'm doing okay, Dad. He goes in his room to do whatever he was going to do. My oldest boy, Taurus, came home last, and I was standing there at the door as he walked by, and during these days, his speech was slurred. His shoulders were hunched over. He always wore a hoodie. He did not, and I mean, it was amazing that this boy, so intelligent, had been reduced to a just grunting. It's all right, and just go to his room, and I never see him anymore. So I was going to walk out of the door after he came in. So he walked past me, grunting, had his hoodie on, didn't even bother to look at me. Then he stopped and he said, "Oh, I got something for you," and flipped it over to me. It was that letter. I took the letter and began to read it, and just to read it before I took off. I was out of there, people. This letter was outlining our journey from his point of view. The journey, I saw it, I had a point of view. And from my point of view, it looked raggedy, toe up. We're not going to make it. But I'm weak. I'm feeling weak, indecisive, unable to think straight or clearly. So I thought. That letter has such an impact on me. Filled my gas tank back up. If you go to my Facebook page, you can read it. I kind of scratched out stuff because there's some of the things in there I was embarrassed about. But we in the Black community especially have this thing about not being honest about what's going on under the cover or behind closed doors. So we all look like everything is okay. But that letter saved my life because my son saw strength in what I thought was weak. But I got to admit to you, ladies and gentlemen, I got to admit, I ain't never prayed so much in my life. I prayed more during those years than I have ever prayed in my life. And I did some submission and some releasing that, I'll have to share that with you another time, but that's what that letter was all about. And what had happened was that his teacher that day assigned them an assignment about who is their hero. And guess who my son wrote about? My son wrote about me. Said I was his hero. And he just kind of nonchalantly flipped the page off to me, not realizing that page, that piece of paper, saved his father's life. And so I put it in a sleeve to preserve it. And today I was changing the binder that I had all of our important documents in, and I saw that letter and I said, this is it. I got to do this program, Vision for Young Men. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. When I today saw that, I said, okay, because I didn't really want to do this. But that was the thing that pushed it over the brink. The phone calls, the text messages after last week's program, all the times I get asked questions about that. My son is doing this. Even my company assigns me to the boys at the schools that I'm in and out of, doing professional development and training. They sign me the boys, and I've developed a reputation for this. So let me talk a little bit about vision and using the whole thing. And if you got something to say, look, feel free to call in 469-297-2056, or go to, if you're listening on YouTube, just type something into the chat. Let me make sure the chat is working okay. Okay. Make sure the chat is working okay. Or you can go to Facebook and say something there on Facebook, and I'll see that. So, but let me go into what I wanted to talk about until somebody asks me a question or say something or call in. I got a little phone number here that you can call in, 469-297-2056. But I did have some things that I wanted to talk about up until that time. But that letter, ladies and gentlemen, filled my gas tank up, and I never again did I think about ever abandoning my boys. So let's talk a little bit about the nature of your son. Now, often I get questions from female teachers, and incidentally, I teach teachers. But I often get questions about boys and what's going on. So I did a little research, and I discovered I wanted to see who's teaching the children. And we already know it's primarily women. And unfortunately, a majority of the women who are teaching our boys are single. And many of them have had some experiences that have been set in their system, and it causes a hostility towards the boy. So the boy is getting up in the morning, mama telling him what to do. He comes to school, Mrs. McGillicuddy is telling him what to do. And this boy is flexing. And if you go into certain parts of Texas school districts, and I have to tell these sisters, listen, put them things away. You have no business being in a middle school of boys, and your breasts and your cleavage, and they horny as they, I don't know what, and you got your cleavage all out and your butt sticking out. But that's a side note. But it's the truth anyway. But many of these boys are getting bossed around as they see it, in school and at home, and he's growing into a man. And I just, I got to just deal with it the way it is, because this is where I am, where I'm dealing with things at. I go across town and deal with the Pakistani Indians and Asians, but that has to do with mathematics and science. When I go into South Dallas, I'm dealing with Black children. And whilst many of them have gone beyond the remedial levels, a lot of the social things that are going on causes them to be unable to learn properly. But the nature of your son and the nature of your student, your male child, if you are a teacher. And I know some sisters that are amazing teachers. Don't let me disparage anybody. I know some sisters that are amazing teachers. But I'm talking about a bigger picture. and how to develop boys from a level of knowledge. You got to acknowledge his nature. His nature is not the same as a female. So the boy is not going to be so prone to sit and listen. He's got to move. He's got to test. He's got to push. He's got to examine. He's got to break. He's got to think. He's got to rest. The boy doesn't have the same nature as the female, but yet you have female developed curricula, or at least the approach. And because of our political correctness, it's difficult to really acknowledge the fact that males learn differently than females. That's a fact. So you can't necessarily sit the boy down and make him just listen. You got to let him test you. And especially when he gets up in age, 10, black boys, 10, 11, 12, 15, 17, they're going to challenge you. Because one of the reasons, people, is the DNA. What we've been through, we got to acknowledge what we have been through and the way our minds have been formulated so that we can address issues. But if we pretend that we didn't have the historical context that we have, and we just sit our kids in a class and expect them to learn the same way as somebody else whose parents haven't worried about voting, for example. You struggling to this day just to vote. Do you not think that your children are picking up that energy? You struggle in this day to be treated fairly. Do you not think your children are picking up that energy? And boys don't believe you. Boys don't believe nothing you say. This is where the starting point is, because of the lies that have been passed down through the years, through the DNA, through the energy, through the mind. Let's be real about it. We don't trust you. You need a technique based on the nature of the boy and the energy of the boy before you can teach him. The nature of your son. When a boy is going through puberty, he is transitioning, and they don't teach this much anymore. But when a boy is going through puberty, he's transitioning from boyhood as being being taken care of by mama and daddy to a man who wants to learn how to take care of himself. He's wanting to test his own abilities. So if you know he's going through puberty, which many don't realize when these boys are going through puberty, and they now listen, I done went through puberty with 3 of them. So I got to see many times, as well as what my own when I went through puberty. So when a boy is going through puberty, you got to know what's happening. And I'm just going to speak to the ladies about this who may be raising boys. You have to know what's happening to him. He's not defiant towards you just for the sake of being defiant. He's not hard-headed. Don't call him hard-headed. He's not hard-headed. He is turning into a man. But if you don't have any program that address that transition from boyhood to manhood, then he's going to be crazy. And he's going to come up with his own definition of manhood. So there has to be some programmed way, which means we got to get some gonads, young brothers. We got to get some, us professionals, those of us who prance around with our degrees. We're going to have to get, they don't give you gonads with the degrees. You're going to have to grow some of those. The degrees that they give us or that we earn make us better suited to maintain the status quo. And so we don't go outside of it, even though we can all clearly see it doesn't work. We're going to have to come up with some strategies, broad strategies, put our egos aside and develop some programs that are consistent, that have some consistency to them, that's designed to develop our boys as they make that transition from boyhood to manhood. When they make that transition without any definition, without any guidance, you find them getting in trouble with the law. You find them just going crazy. You find them they're in alcohol or drugs or both or whatever, or just going out getting women pregnant, or all this stuff that comes from not having a disciplined mind. And a disciplined mind comes from training, getting training. So let me give you a few things to think about regarding the nature of your son. This program is going to only go for an hour, and I promise you I won't stop in 1 hour. The nature of your son, ladies and gentlemen, the nature of your son is freedom. That is the nature of your son. It's built in him. Freedom. Now let me show you something that happened to us so you can understand why the confusion about a lot of things. Under Willie Lynch, the roles were reversed. The women were trained to exercise freedom, and the word they use is independent. And the males were reversed in the application of nature and now have learned to be dependent. But his natural energies rise up of freedom. And so if he's trained to be dependent but has the nature of freedom, then can't you see the confusion and craziness? Because he's confused about his place. He's looking at this woman and she's independent, which is a euphemism for freedom. But freedom is the nature of a male, not a female. Love is the nature of a female. Freedom is the nature of the male. Another was the corresponding. Those are the two things that correspond to each other at that level. You will hear me talk about male energy, female energy quite a bit. This is stuff that you didn't learn. They don't teach you this in your schools. You have to do some research outside of the American paradigm, though you can actually read things that's readily available and get this kind of knowledge. But this is knowledge that people who are high achievers know. And they teach their sons. The nature of your son is freedom. And along with that freedom, that nature of freedom, see, ladies, you can't save your black man. Can't save him. Wasn't your job. You don't have the strength. You can support. Along with freedom is the nature of knowledge. Knowledge is masculine and has a masculine energy to it. That's why y'all call God him, even though God is made up, as far as our knowledge is concerned, of him and her, male and female. Knowledge is masculine. Knowledge is what gives freedom its power. So if a male child is kept from knowledge, he will not know how to exercise his nature of freedom. And like I said, Willie Lynch, under Willie Lynch, it was said straight out, put him in reverse order. Make the female independent, which is another word or euphemism for freedom. Make her independent. Raise them in reverse roles. You got to get the male out of the situation in order to give the female that you're teaching, give her the energy of independent, but independent from that male. See, independent from that male, but not independent from you. Make the male dependent. You make the male dependent by not by not allowing him to function in his own role. This is why, and I know I'm going to offend a lot of y'all, but so be it. So be it. When you got to, in 2022, be worried about a vote, and you got men getting on the radio and getting on television and talking about we got to save our democracy, and the only thing you've been struggling for over the last 200 years is a vote where other men don't even think about it, it's taken for granted. You are dependent. You're dependent on another man. You're equal. You're dependent on your equal as though he is your superior. You don't see this? You're not talking about anything but a vote. And as a result of this vote that you constantly got to fight for, the best you can do is then get a whole lot of other people to vote alongside of you to get the meager benefits that others take for granted. Not conducting yourself as a man, brother. That's not men talking. It's not men talking. So what do you think your boy is looking at? And that's why he don't trust you. That's why he don't believe nothing you got to say. That's why he don't want your education system. He don't care about your degrees. The nature of your son is freedom and knowledge. And his strength comes from his spirituality, which he was born with. He don't have to go get God. Now, I've asked several boys, I'm going to say maybe about 50 boys, have they had this experience? And to the T, they have had it. Here's the experience. About 6, 7, or 8 years old, a question was put to his mind from his internal nature. Every boy I know have had this question, that I've talked to have had this question, and I'm willing to bet you that the men that are listening to this program have had this experience too. I don't know if the ladies have had it, but I know that men have it. When I was about 7 years old, I'll never forget, I was lying in the bed in my father's home. In fact, I was on my sister's bed downstairs. That's how well I remember this incident. And deep in my mind, a question was posed to me. And this question was posed with an authority. The question was, who am I? That was the question. It wasn't me asking myself, who am I? At least I don't think. It was another type of entity asking me, who is he? Who am I? Asking me who he was. Now, that could have been my own voice deep within my spirit, but the authority of it gave the sense of another entity posing this question to me. I asked my own boys that, and to a T, they've all said the same thing. Yeah, I've had that question. So his spirituality is within him because the God, the creator, the all, is communicating with your son, ladies, gentlemen, communicating with your son herself. Who am I? All of my sons have said that they had that same thing happen to them. Other male relatives that I inquired to have said the same thing. Other boys of students of mine have said the same thing. That this question was posed. So his spirituality is built in. But if you don't know, if you don't have any way of knowing who your boy is, you will not realize, you will write him off and think that, he just wayward, he just hard-headed, he just this, he just that. Because they don't teach you about your own children. I want to teach you something about your own children. When your son is going through puberty, he's going to seem defiant. And if he doesn't, he's going to seem wayward. He's going to seem, I don't care about nothing. He's going to seem grunt. And if he has no training, he's going to grow up as a man with those same puberty attitudes. And that's why you got boys at 50 and 60 years old, ladies. That's why they acted like boys. They're still in puberty because they have not been developed as a result of some sort of programmed training. And I'm not talking about training how to vote, training how to get a better degree, but I'm talking about training how to think as a free man. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about civil rights. I'm talking about a man. I'm talking about raising him up into a man. It doesn't come by accident. People who raise children, successful children, have a program and they pay attention to their boys and their development, and they carefully guide their minds to study principles. I only got a few minutes, but before I sign out of this program, I want to recommend some books. I want to do this program every Wednesday, and I'm hoping that you all participate. Just kind of see how it go, and if it doesn't go, then I'll just let it go. But I'm hoping you participate. But to get started, I want to recommend some books. Because leaders read and readers lead. And as I said, freedom has to come with knowledge. So let me recommend some books that I picked out and all of these books, except two of them, I've assigned to my sons. And they cover different areas. James Allen. This is the thinner version right here. As a Man Thinketh. This helps your son to understand the effect that his thoughts have on his experience. See, because the superstitious preachers have made us believe that our living and our experiences come first and our thoughts come second. They don't make the connection between the thought as a cause. So this helps, and this is a Bible verse. As a man thinketh, so is he. He's not that thing and then he thinks it, and then he gets that experience. This book is great for teenagers going into manhood. I'm taking my 18-year-old into manhood this October. My 22-year-old has already gone through his manhood designation. So let me get another one. The Opinions and Philosophy of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. You need to know some of the masculine men, some of the alpha men. Your boys need to know some of these men who came along and had the gonads to think to themselves that I can build a nation. If one man can build a nation, I can build a nation. The Opinions and Philosophies of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Great for a college student or a high-achieving high school student. How to Eat to Live by Elijah Muhammad gives us a way to eat that will help us to live longer and have better lives. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and this comes with a workbook, and this is really good because it sets it up to where each of their experiences are seen as an investment, like the bank of relationships, the bank of study, the bank of this or the bank of that. So this is the workbook right here. My boys have studied this, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. Becoming Supernatural. This is the current book that we're reading. If you're reading with me, I'm going to recommend one book a month, and this is the book for January. Becoming Supernatural. This is a scientific study in how to use your biology and your physical chemistry along with spirituality to do things, extraordinary things in life. I'm telling you, it's not an accident. So this is for a well-developed spiritual scientist. Especially if you got a scientific background, you really can appreciate this because he ties science with spirituality. And I mean, in a way that is just amazing. It's just amazing. Great exercises in here, great meditations in here that's specific to some of the things you might be trying to solve in your life. This is great for a person with a scientific background or a spiritual background. He doesn't have any equations or anything in here. It's really well written. I think you would enjoy that. A Course in Miracles. This book will change your life. I want to recommend that ministers, evangelists, pastors read this book and study this and do the exercises. 365 exercises in here that brings you closer to Jesus. Yes, closer to Jesus. And when I say closer to Jesus, I mean you recognize him. You see him where he is. So A Course in Miracles, Pastor, believe me, you'll thank me for this and send me some tithes. You start studying A Course in Miracles, I guarantee you, your people, when you teach your people, you're not going to believe the effect that it's going to have. A Course in Miracles. Pastors, evangelists, ministers, anybody who's training a lot of people in spirituality, A Course in Miracles. Then you want to know you want to make sure that your children know who you are. So I don't know if it's backwards on here, but the name of this book is Your Father's Story. Dad, I want to know everything about you. My sons gave me this book, this journal 2 years ago. And I write in this journal. I don't write in it every day, but I'm certainly filling it up. I'm giving my sons, because the journal asks questions about me, and I get to write it and put it in there. Now they read it right now, but I'm still not finished answering all the questions in there because I want to think carefully about it. Anyway, this will give your son insight into your thinking, because it asks some very personal questions about your experiences in life. So your son will be able to look through this. My boys look at it, and I notice it. They'll say something to me about some incident that happened to me, and I know that they had picked this up and read it. So these are just some of the resources that you can use, ladies and gentlemen, to address your boy. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. I said I was only going to stay an hour. And my hour has gone. Join me for Sunday school next Sunday. And we're going to do Job. We're going to study Job. 9:45 Sunday morning. And then next week at 7 p.m. we'll come back here and do this again.
He comes home each night looking tired and beat. He sits down at the dinner table and has a bite to eat. Never a frown, always a smile. When he says to me, how's my child? I said that I've been studying hard all day and so trying very hard to understand the golden rule. I think I'll color this man father. I think I'll color him love. Said I'm gonna color him father. I think I'll color the man love. Yes, I will. He says education is a thing if you want to compete. Because without his son, life ain't very sweet. I love this man and I don't know why, except I'll need his strength until the day that I die. My mother loves him and I can tell by the way she looks at him when he holds my little sister Nell. I heard her say just the other day that if it hadn't have been for him, she couldn't have found her way. I think I'll color him father. I'm gonna color him love. I've got to color him father. I think I'll color this man love.